The phone rang at 11:30 at night, jolting me awake from studying my welding manual. My mother's voice cut through the speaker like a rusty blade. She demanded I skip my certification exam tomorrow to help my brother Troy move apartments. When I explained this exam determined my entire career. Future, she exploded with words that still burn in my memory. He's building a life while you're just playing. Pretend. My father and Troy joined the attack, calling me selfish and ungrateful. That night I packed my truck and left Columbus forever, cutting all contact with my family. 6 months later, a desperate voicemail changed everything I thought I knew about their true nature. Let me back up and explain how I got to that breaking point. My name is Barnett, and I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, as the older brother who somehow became the family disappointment. While my younger brother Troy sailed through college on my parents' dime, I bounced between warehouse jobs and retail positions trying to figure out my path in life. Troy was 24, 2 years younger than me, but he carried himself like he owned the world. Engineering major at Ohio State University, never worked a day in his life, and treated our parents' house like his personal hotel. Meanwhile, I lived in a cramped studio apartment on the south side, working nights at Henderson Metal Works to pay rent while studying welding techniques during my free time. The certification exam I mentioned cost me $800 money I scraped together over 6 months by eating ramen noodles and skipping movies with friends. This test only happened twice a year, and passing it would qualify me for apprenticeship programs that could change my entire future. I had studied metallurgy blueprint reading and safety protocols until my eyes burned. My supervisor at Henderson, an old-timer named Frank, told me I had natural talent and shouldn't waste it. The phone call that night started innocently enough. My mother, Linda, a real estate agent who prided herself on solving everyone's problems, called to chat about Troy's upcoming move. He was relocating from his college apartment to a fancy downtown loft, preparing for his engagement to Madison, a girl from a wealthy family in the suburbs. "Barnett, honey, I need you to do something important for your brother," she began in that sweet voice she used when asking for favors. "Troy's moving tomorrow, and he really needs your help with the heavy furniture. You know how his back gets." I explained about my certification exam, how it started at 8 in the morning in Cleveland, 3 hours away. The testing center required advanced scheduling, and missing it meant waiting another 6 months for the next opportunity. "Can't you reschedule it?" she asked, her tone shifting toward irritation. "This is family, Barnett. Troy's building his future with Madison, and her parents are already skeptical about him. If this move goes badly, it could affect their engagement." Before I could respond, she put me on speakerphone. Suddenly, I heard my father Gary's voice joining the conversation, followed by Troy himself. They had planned this ambush, surrounding me with guilt and expectations. "Son, family comes first," my father said in his measured insurance adjuster tone. "Your brother needs you right now. That welding thing can wait." Troy's voice carried that familiar whine I remembered from childhood when he wanted something. "Come on, Barnett. I've got all this expensive stuff that needs careful handling. Madison's dad is already wondering if I'm responsible enough to take care of his daughter. I can't mess this up." I tried explaining the importance of this certification again, how it represented 2 years of preparation and sacrifice. Frank at the metal shop had recommended me for advanced training programs, but only if I passed this exam. Missing it would set back my career plans indefinitely. Career plans. My mother's laugh carried sharp edges. "Barnett, you're talking about welding. It's a job, not a career. Troy's going to be an engineer. He's building something real." The conversation escalated as they took turns lecturing me about responsibility and family loyalty. Troy mentioned how Madison's family already questioned his background, coming from a middle-class family instead of their country club circle. A botched moving day would give them more ammunition against him. My father threatened consequences if I didn't help. "If you can't be there for your brother's important moments, maybe you shouldn't expect us to be there for yours," he said coldly. Then my mother started crying, which she always did when logical arguments failed. "I'm so disappointed in who you've become, Barnett. When did you get so selfish? I raised you better than this." Throughout this assault, I heard background noise from Troy's end of the call. Madison was there, coaching him on what to say. At one point, her voice came through clearly. "Just tell him we'll pay him $500. That should be enough for a welder." $500. Like I was hired help instead of family. The casual dismissal in her voice, the assumption that money could buy my cooperation, stung worse than anything my parents had said. But what hurt most was that nobody corrected her or defended my choice to pursue skilled trades. Troy jumped on Madison's suggestion. "Yeah, we can pay you. 500 cash for 1 day's work. That's probably more than you make in a week at that metal place." The condescension in his voice broke something inside me. My own brother saw my work as insignificant, my goals as unworthy of respect. He had never asked about my welding studies, never shown interest in the intricate skills I was developing. To him, I was just manual labor with a family connection. "I'm not skipping my exam," I said firmly. "This certification determines my entire future in this trade. You'll have to find another way to move your stuff." The response was immediate and brutal. All three of them started talking at once, hurling accusations about my selfishness and lack of family values. My mother sobbed about how embarrassed she was to have a son who put personal ambition above family needs. My father questioned whether I understood what family meant. Troy called me jealous of his success and accused me of sabotaging his relationship out of spite. The call ended with ultimatums and threats. If I didn't show up tomorrow morning to help with the move, I wouldn't be welcome at Troy's engagement party next month. They would tell the extended family how I abandoned my brother during a crucial moment. My father suggested I think carefully about whether I wanted to remain part of this family. After hanging up, I sat in my small apartment, staring at my welding certification study materials spread across the kitchen table. 2 years of evening classes, weekend practice sessions, and careful financial planning led to tomorrow's exam. Frank had told me about apprentices who went on to earn six-figure incomes in specialized fields like underwater welding or aerospace applications. But my family saw none of that potential. They saw a blue-collar worker who should drop everything to help the golden child move apartments. The pain of their dismissal cut deeper than any torch flame I had ever felt. I barely slept that night, tossing between anger and doubt. By 5 in the morning, I gave up trying to rest and made coffee in my tiny kitchen. My phone buzzed constantly with text messages from family members, each one more aggressive than the last. "You're being incredibly selfish right now," read one from my mother. "Troy is crying because he thinks his engagement might be ruined. Is your little test really worth destroying your brother's happiness?" My father sent a longer message. "Son, I've been thinking about this situation all night. Your mother and I have supported you through some difficult years, including that time you got fired from the warehouse for attendance issues. We've never asked for much in return. This is your chance to step up and prove you're a reliable family member." Troy's messages contained a mix of pleading and threats. "Barnett, please don't do this to me. Madison's parents are already looking for reasons to break us up. If you don't help today, they'll see it as proof that my family doesn't support me. I'll never forgive you if my engagement falls apart because you wanted to play with fire for a living." The cascade of guilt and manipulation made my stomach churn, but I forced myself to eat breakfast and review my study notes one final time. At 6:30, I loaded my welding helmet and safety gear into my pickup truck and headed north toward Cleveland. The testing center occupied an industrial building near the airport filled with other aspiring welders from across Ohio. I recognized the nervous energy in their faces, the same mixture of preparation and anxiety I felt. These people understood what this certification meant for our futures. During the written portion, my phone vibrated with an incoming video call from Troy. I declined it and switched to silent mode, but it rang again immediately. The proctor gave me a warning look, so I stepped outside during the break to handle whatever crisis my family had manufactured. Troy's face appeared on screen, red and puffy from crying. Behind him, I could see his empty apartment with boxes scattered everywhere. "Barnett, you have to come right now," he sobbed. "The moving company canceled on us this morning. Something about a scheduling conflict. Madison is having a breakdown and her parents are driving over to help. They're going to see what a disaster this is. I felt a stab of sympathy for my brother's distress, but something seemed off about his story. Professional moving companies didn't usually cancel same day unless there was a serious emergency. What moving company? I asked. Give me their name and number. Maybe I can call them after my exam and sort something out. There's no time for that, Troy insisted. Madison's parents will be here in 2 hours. If they see me standing in a pile of boxes like some kind of amateur, they'll definitely talk her out of marrying me. Please, Barnett, I'm begging you. Just this once, put family first. The emotional manipulation felt familiar, but his genuine panic seemed real. I almost wavered. Almost considered driving back to Columbus to rescue my little brother one more time. Then I heard Madison's voice in the background, and everything changed. Is he falling for it? She asked Troy, apparently thinking she was off camera. Tell him we'll throw in an extra 200 if he leaves right now. Troy quickly moved the phone, but I had heard enough. What did she mean by falling for it? I demanded. Nothing, she didn't mean anything, Troy stammered. She's just upset about the move. But I pressed him, and gradually the truth emerged. There had never been a moving company cancellation. Madison's wealthy father had hired professional movers a week ago, but he wanted to test whether I would abandon my own goals to help Troy. It was a character assessment, a way to measure my loyalty to family versus personal ambition. Her dad thinks family should always come first, Troy explained weakly. He wanted to see what kind of person you really are before I become part of their family. It wasn't my idea, I swear. The revelation hit me like a sledgehammer. My family had orchestrated an elaborate deception to manipulate me into skipping the most important exam of my career. They had lied about emergencies, fabricated crises, and tested my compliance like I was some kind of servant rather than a son and brother. So the whole moving crisis is fake? I asked, wanting absolute clarity. Troy couldn't meet my eyes through the phone screen. The move is real, but we don't actually need your help. Madison's dad hired these professional guys who specialize in expensive furniture. They're probably better than we would have been anyway. I hung up without another word and returned to finish my certification exam. The practical welding portion required steady hands and focused concentration skills that felt impossible given the emotional turmoil churning inside me. But I channeled my anger into precision, laying perfect beads on test pieces while imagining each spark as another burned bridge with my family. The drive back to Columbus gave me 3 hours to process what had happened. My family valued control over my choices more than my actual success. They saw me as a supporting character in Troy's story rather than the protagonist of my own life. Every achievement I worked toward was secondary to their immediate convenience. That evening, I returned to my apartment building to find my parents' car parked outside. They sat on the steps leading to my door, along with Troy and Madison. An ambush on my home territory designed to corner me when I was tired and vulnerable. We need to talk, my mother announced as I approached. This situation has gone too far. I unlocked my door without inviting them inside, but they followed anyway, filling my small living space with tension and accusations. Troy looked sheepish. Madison appeared bored, and my parents radiated disappointed authority. Barnett, we're very concerned about your attitude lately, my father began. This isn't the young man we raised. Family should always come first, no matter what personal activities you might have planned. Personal activities. He reduced my career certification to a hobby, a casual pursuit that should bend to family convenience. The dismissal stung, but I was beyond caring about their approval. You lied to me, I said simply. You created a fake emergency to manipulate me into skipping the most important test of my career. How is that putting family first? Madison spoke up for the first time, her voice carrying the entitled confidence of someone accustomed to getting her way. It wasn't really lying. We just wanted to see if you'd prioritize Troy when he really needed support. My father says that's how you evaluate someone's character. Your father doesn't even know me, I replied, and neither do any of you apparently. You think my career goals are pretend my education is worthless and my time belongs to whatever crisis you decide to manufacture. The confrontation escalated as my mother defended their deception as a legitimate test of family loyalty. Troy tried to apologize while simultaneously justifying their actions. Madison checked her phone, clearly wishing she was anywhere else. But the breaking point came when Troy revealed the final layer of their manipulation. Look, Barnett Madison's dad is really influential in this city. He knows people in construction, manufacturing, all those industries where you might want to work someday. If you had helped today, he might have put in a good word for you. Think about the connections you could have made. The implication was clear. My career success should depend on my willingness to serve their agenda. My skills, education, and work ethic mattered less than my compliance with their demands. They wanted me to remain a dependent family member who could be summoned whenever convenient. That's when I made the decision that would change everything. I'm leaving Columbus, I announced. Tonight. I'm done being your backup plan and safety net. Troy, you've got professional movers and Madison's family money. You don't need me for anything except emotional support, and I'm fresh out of that. The room erupted in shocked protests, but I was already moving toward my bedroom to pack. My mother followed, pleading and crying. My father tried his stern authority voice. Troy panicked about losing his older brother's support system. Madison finally looked interested, probably wondering if she was witnessing a real family breakdown. But I had reached my limit with their manipulation and control. 2 years of preparation led to a certification exam that could open doors to a career worth building. My family saw that achievement as less important than moving furniture for someone who didn't even need my help. I threw clothes and essential items into 2 large duffel bags, loaded them into my pickup truck, and drove away from my family's expectations forever. My phone buzzed with incoming calls and messages, but I didn't answer. The highway stretched ahead like a promise of something better, something built on my own effort instead of their approval. I drove through the night, stopping only for gas and coffee, until I reached Denver as the sun painted the Rocky Mountains gold and purple. My cousin Jake owned a welding and fabrication shop on the industrial side of town, and I had his business card tucked in my wallet from a family reunion 3 years ago. Jake was my father's brother's son, but he had left Ohio a decade earlier after his own falling out with family expectations. He specialized in custom metalwork for restaurants' art installations and architectural projects. When I showed up at his shop that morning, dusty and exhausted from driving all night, he took one look at me and understood exactly what had happened. Family tried to run your life again. He asked, not waiting for an answer. Yeah, I remember that feeling. Come on, let's get you some breakfast and figure out what you want to do next. Jake's shop occupied a converted warehouse filled with the organized chaos of creative metalwork. Half-finished sculptures shared space with restaurant ventilation systems, artistic railings, and prototype machinery parts. The smell of hot metal and cutting oil felt like home in a way my family house never had. Over breakfast at a nearby diner, I told Jake about the certification exam manipulation and my decision to leave Columbus permanently. He listened without judgment, occasionally nodding as I described familiar family dynamics he had escaped years earlier. Your dad and my dad are cut from the same cloth, Jake said finally. They think success means following their plan instead of building your own. The difference is you figured it out younger than I did. Jake offered me temporary work at his shop while I waited for my certification results, plus a place to stay in the small apartment above his office. The wages were fair, the work was challenging, and nobody questioned my commitment to the welding trade. His business partner Elena arrived at the shop an hour later, a woman in her 40s who had immigrated from Mexico 20 years ago and built a reputation for innovative metalwork designs. She evaluated my skills with a few quick tests, had me weld some practice joints, and declared me trainable for their advanced projects. You've got steady hands and good instincts, Elena told me. With proper training, you could specialize in artistic work that pays much better than basic welding. Are you interested in learning or just looking for a paycheck? I was definitely interested in learning. Elena taught me techniques I had never seen, ways to shape metal, like clay methods for creating textures and patterns that transformed raw steel into something beautiful. She had clients who paid premium prices for custom work, and she needed reliable help to keep up with demand. The other shop employee was Marcus, a guy about my age who had his own family struggles that led him to Denver. His parents wanted him to become a lawyer like his older sister, but he found peace in working with his hands. We bonded over shared experiences of disappointing family expectations and finding our own paths. 3 weeks into my stay, I received notification that I had passed my certification exam with one of the highest scores in my testing group. The achievement felt like validation of every hour I had spent studying, every sacrifice I had made to pursue this career path. Jake and Elena celebrated with barbecue and beer, treating my success like it mattered to their business and their lives. Local contractors began noticing my work on Jake's projects, and within a month I had an offer for an apprenticeship position with a company that specialized in high-end commercial construction. The starting salary was nearly double what I had made at Henderson Metal Works back in Columbus. But the real shock came 3 weeks later when I found a package waiting at the shop with no return address. Inside were professional wedding photographs showing Troy and Madison's ceremony, which had apparently happened the previous weekend. They had gotten married without telling me, despite the family drama about me missing his moving day. The photos showed a lavish outdoor ceremony at Madison's family estate, with Troy looking nervous and Madison radiant in an expensive gown. But what struck me was a display easel near the guest book featuring photos from their journey together. One showed Troy standing proudly in his new apartment with a caption about overcoming challenges and building their future together. The apartment looked perfect furniture arranged by obvious professionals, everything clean and organized. There was no sign of the moving crisis that had supposedly threatened their engagement. The whole narrative was fabricated, turned into a cute story about young love conquering adversity. I realized my family had not only manipulated me, they had transformed that manipulation into mythology for Madison's family and wedding guests. My absence became part of their love story, proof that they could succeed despite lack of support from Troy's family. They had written me out of their lives while using my rejection as evidence of their resilience. The wedding photos represented everything wrong with my family's values. Appearance mattered more than truth. Narrative mattered more than relationships, and my actual feelings were irrelevant compared to their desired story. They wanted me as a supporting character who would show up when convenient and disappear when not needed. That night I called Elena and asked if she was serious about teaching me advanced metalwork techniques. She smiled and handed me a stack of technical manuals, the beginning of an education that would transform my understanding of what was possible in this trade. 6 months in Denver had shown me what life could look like when built on mutual respect instead of manipulation. Jake and Elena valued my contributions. Marcus had become a genuine friend, and I was earning enough money to consider buying a small house in the suburbs. Meanwhile, my family had constructed their perfect narrative without me proving that my absence didn't actually affect their lives in any meaningful way. The realization was painful, but liberating. I had been holding on to relationships that existed more in my imagination than in reality. 9 months after leaving Columbus, I had transformed from an uncertain apprentice into a skilled welder specializing in underwater and high-altitude applications. Elena connected me with an instructor who taught underwater welding certification, a specialized field where experienced professionals could earn over $100,000 per year. The training was grueling, combining advanced welding techniques with commercial diving skills and safety protocols. I spent weeks in pools and test tanks learning to work in zero visibility conditions while managing air supply and equipment. But the challenge excited me in ways that regular welding never had. My girlfriend Sarah had followed me to Denver after finishing her nursing degree in Columbus. She found work at Children's Hospital, Colorado, and we rented a small house together in a quiet neighborhood where I could practice welding in the garage without disturbing neighbors. Sarah understood my career ambitions in ways my family never had. She asked intelligent questions about metallurgy, showed interest in my project photos, and celebrated each certification milestone with genuine pride. When I explained the income potential of underwater welding, she encouraged me to pursue the most advanced training available. The underwater welding certification opened doors I hadn't imagined. Marine construction companies competed for qualified welders, and I received offers to work on bridge repairs, offshore oil platforms, and ship maintenance contracts. The pay scales were dramatic, with some projects offering $1,500 per day plus travel expenses. Jake's business had grown significantly with my help, and he offered me a partnership stake in exchange for bringing in underwater welding contracts. Elena was developing an artistic metalwork line that attracted wealthy collectors, and she wanted my precision skills for the most intricate pieces. I started a side business creating custom metalwork for Denver's booming restaurant scene, designing everything from decorative railings to sculptural lighting fixtures. My artistic pieces brought in extra income while building a portfolio that attracted attention from interior designers and architects. Within 18 months of leaving Columbus, I had saved enough money to buy a 3-bedroom house in Lakewood, a Denver suburb with good schools and growing property values. Sarah and I talked about marriage and starting a family, conversations that felt natural and exciting rather than pressured or manipulated. My professional reputation grew through word-of-mouth recommendations and social media posts showcasing my work. A local magazine featured my custom restaurant installations in an article about Denver's creative metalworkers, describing my pieces as functional art that enhances dining experiences. The contrast with my family's dismissive attitude felt surreal. People in Denver saw my work as skilled craftsmanship worthy of respect and premium pricing. Restaurant owners trusted me with expensive projects, knowing I would deliver quality results on schedule. Marcus had also flourished in this environment, developing his own expertise in architectural metalwork. We often collaborated on larger projects, combining our skills to create installations neither of us could manage alone. The mutual support felt authentic, based on shared goals rather than family obligation. But the breakthrough moment came when I received an email from Rocky Mountain Stadium Corporation, the company building Denver's new baseball stadium. They needed a project supervisor for all metalwork installation, including decorative elements, structural components, and specialized safety features. The position required underwater welding certification for work on the stadium's water features, plus management experience coordinating multiple contractors. The salary was stunning enough to pay off my house and establish serious savings for the future. During the interview process, I learned that they had heard about my reputation through industry connections, people who had worked with me on various projects around Denver. My portfolio of restaurant installations, underwater certifications, and project management experience impressed the hiring committee. They offered me the job with a starting salary of $90,000 per year, plus performance bonuses that could push my income over 6 figures. The 3-year contract included health benefits, retirement contributions, and opportunities for advancement within their construction management division. I accepted immediately, knowing this represented the career breakthrough I had worked toward since leaving Columbus. The irony wasn't lost on me that this opportunity came through building my own reputation, rather than relying on family connections or approval. Around this same time, I received an unexpected revelation about my family's situation through a mutual acquaintance from high school. Troy's engineering career had stalled after graduation, when he struggled to find entry-level positions that met his salary expectations. Madison's father had refused to hire him at the family firm, apparently unimpressed with his work ethic and attitude. According to my old classmate, my parents had been telling extended family members that I abandoned them during Troy's wedding crisis and was probably struggling in some dead-end job out west. They painted me as the ungrateful son who chose selfishness over family loyalty, never mentioning my growing success in Denver. The lies stung, but they also revealed how little my family understood about my actual life and achievements. They were still fighting battles from our last confrontation, unaware that I had moved far beyond their limited expectations and dismissive attitudes. Meanwhile, Troy and Madison's marriage was reportedly struggling as the reality of entry-level engineering salaries clashed with their expensive lifestyle expectations. Madison had grown accustomed to her parents' financial support, and Troy couldn't provide the standard of living she expected. Learning about their difficulties didn't bring me satisfaction, just sadness about the waste of potential and the price of prioritizing appearance over substance. Troy had intelligence and education, but he had never learned persistence or resilience because everything had always been provided for him. My success in Denver felt earned in ways that Troy's achievements never had. Every certification, every client relationship, every career milestone represented my own effort and decision-making. I was building something genuine rather than performing for family approval. Sarah and I began planning our wedding for the following summer, a simple outdoor ceremony in the mountains with friends from Denver and Jake's family. We didn't invite my parents or Troy, knowing their presence would create drama and tension that had no place in our celebration. The decision felt healthy rather than vindictive. We wanted to start our marriage surrounded by people who supported our relationship and respected our choices. My family had forfeited their invitation through 2 years of silence and spreading false narratives about my character. As I settled into my new position at Rocky Mountain Stadium Corporation, managing teams of skilled tradespeople and coordinating complex installation schedules, I realized how far I had traveled from that desperate phone call in Columbus. My family's manipulation had inadvertently launched me toward a much better life than I could have built while remaining their emotional hostage. 2 years into my stadium project management position, I was reviewing blueprints for the water feature installation when my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it, thinking it was another vendor trying to pitch their services. But something made me answer. "Barnett, oh, thank God you picked up. This is Troy. Please don't hang up. I'm calling from a friend's phone because I think you blocked mine." My brother's voice sounded different, smaller, somehow stripped of the confident entitlement I remembered from our last confrontation. I hadn't spoken to any family member in over 2 years, and hearing Troy's voice brought back a flood of complicated emotions. "What do you want, Troy?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral while my heart rate spiked. "I need to talk to you about some things that have happened. With the family, I mean. Everything's kind of falling apart here, and I thought you should know about it. Maybe we could meet somewhere and talk, eh?" The request was so unexpected that I nearly hung up immediately. But curiosity won over caution, and I found myself agreeing to hear what he had to say. We arranged to meet at a neutral coffee shop in downtown Denver the following weekend, when Troy could drive out from Columbus. That Friday evening, I told Sarah about the planned meeting. She listened carefully as I explained my mixed feelings about reconnecting with my brother, my anger about their past manipulation balanced against concern for whatever crisis had prompted his call. "Just be careful," she advised. "People don't usually reach out after 2 years of silence unless they need something significant. Make sure you protect yourself emotionally regardless of what he's going through." Sarah's nursing background had taught her to recognize manipulation tactics and unhealthy family dynamics. She had seen patients whose medical conditions were complicated by toxic family relationships, and she understood the importance of maintaining boundaries. Saturday morning arrived gray and cold, typical Denver weather for late November. I found Troy waiting at a corner table in the coffee shop, looking thinner and older than I remembered. His usual polished appearance was gone, replaced by wrinkled clothes and tired eyes. "Thanks for meeting me," he said as I sat down across from him. "I wasn't sure you would." "I almost didn't," I admitted. "What's so important that you drove 5 hours to talk about it?" Troy took a deep breath and began explaining what had happened to our family over the past 18 months. The story that emerged was a cascade of poor decisions, financial mistakes, and consequences that had been building since my departure from Columbus. Madison had left him 6 months earlier, taking half their savings and moving back to her parents' house. Their marriage had struggled from the beginning due to his unemployment and her expensive lifestyle expectations, but the final break came when she discovered he had been using credit cards to maintain appearances. "She said I wasn't the man she thought she was marrying," Troy explained bitterly. "Apparently, her father warned her that I was immature and financially irresponsible, and she finally started believing him." The divorce proceedings had revealed debts that Troy had hidden from Madison and our parents, credit card balances and personal loans that he used to fund their social life and expensive apartment. Without Madison's family connections, he couldn't maintain their standard of living on his entry-level engineering salary. But Troy's problems were minor compared to what had happened to our parents. Dad had lost his insurance adjuster position after several client complaints about his work quality and attitude. The job market for experienced adjusters was competitive, and his age worked against him in finding new employment. Mom's real estate license had been suspended after an ethics violation involving kickbacks from a mortgage broker. The state investigation revealed a pattern of questionable practices that had been building for years, and she faced potential criminal charges if certain deals were reopened for examination. "They're facing foreclosure on the house," Troy said quietly. "Dad's been unemployed for 8 months and Mom can't work in real estate until her suspension is lifted. They've been borrowing against their retirement accounts just to pay utilities and property taxes." The financial collapse was comprehensive and devastating, but Troy wasn't finished with his revelations. As their situation worsened, our parents had apparently attempted to use my name and reputation to obtain credit and business loans. "They told people you were their business partner in some kind of consulting company," Troy explained. "Dad used your name on loan applications claiming you were providing technical expertise for construction projects. They figured nobody would check since you weren't around to contradict their story." This news hit me like a physical blow. Not only had my family lied about my character and success, they had committed identity theft by using my name for fraudulent financial transactions. Their actions could have destroyed my credit rating and professional reputation if discovered. "How much money are we talking about?" I asked, dreading the answer. "Maybe $15,000 or $20,000 in various loans and credit lines. They thought they could pay it back before you ever found out, but then everything started falling apart faster than they expected." Troy pulled out a folder containing photocopies of loan documents and credit applications bearing my forged signature. Seeing my name attached to their deceptions was surreal and infuriating, a violation that went beyond family conflict into criminal territory. But the story got worse. Madison's father, the wealthy businessman who had orchestrated my manipulation test years earlier, had apparently warned other local contractors about hiring Troy or associating with our family. His influence in Columbus construction circles was significant enough to damage my parents' attempts to rebuild their careers. "Madison's dad considers our whole family unreliable," Troy said. "He's been telling people that we're financially irresponsible and that you abandoned us during a crisis. He doesn't know about your success in Denver because we never corrected his assumptions." The irony was staggering. While I was building a successful career and earning respect in Denver's construction industry, Madison's father was damaging my family's reputation in Columbus based on false information they had provided to him. Their lies had created a web of consequences that trapped them more effectively than any external punishment. As Troy continued his story, I realized the full scope of their self-inflicted disaster. They had alienated me, the family member with actual skills and growing income, while maintaining relationships with people who ultimately rejected them. They had chosen Madison's family approval over their own son's success, and now both relationships were destroyed. "Why are you telling me all this?" I finally asked. "What do you expect me to do about it?" Troy's answer revealed the real purpose of his visit. He wanted me to come back to Columbus and help bail them out financially. With my stadium project salary and growing reputation, I was the only family member with resources to address their crisis. "I know you're angry about how we treated you," he said. "But we're family, Barnett. Despite everything that happened, we're still family. Mom and Dad are talking about bankruptcy, maybe losing the house. I thought you might want to help them avoid that." The request was breathtaking in its audacity. After 2 years of silence, lies about my character, and identity theft using my name, they expected me to rescue them from consequences of their own choices. They still saw me as their backup plan, available for emergencies despite their treatment of my goals and values. But before I could respond to Troy's request, my phone buzzed with an email notification. The message was from a major construction company in Ohio, Midwest Industrial Solutions, with a subject line that made my blood freeze: "Project Supervisor Position. Your reputation precedes you." I opened the email while Troy watched nervously, probably hoping it was some kind of good news that would improve my mood and willingness to help. Instead, it was a job offer that revealed how much my professional reputation had grown beyond my family's knowledge or influence. Dear Mr. Barnett, the email began. We have been following your work on the Rocky Mountain Stadium project through industry publications and contractor recommendations. Your underwater welding expertise and project management skills are exactly what we need for our new Cleveland waterfront development project. We would like to offer you a position as Senior Project Supervisor with a starting salary of $125,000 per year. The offer continued with details about benefits, relocation assistance, and opportunities for advancement within their company. They had found me through my professional network, completely independent of any family connections or local reputation. My work spoke for itself in ways that my family had never imagined possible. Troy noticed my shocked expression and asked what was wrong. I showed him the email, watching his face change as he realized the implications. The family that had dismissed my career as playing pretend was now asking for help from someone earning more than our father ever had. You could take that job, Troy said slowly. You could come back to Ohio and help us get back on our feet. It's like the universe is telling you that you belong here with your family. But I saw the situation differently. The job offer proved that my success was portable, built on skills and reputation, rather than geographic location. I could choose where to work based on my own goals, rather than family convenience or manipulation. The conversation with Troy had revealed the full cost of my family's values and choices. They had sacrificed real relationships for false appearances, traded my respect for Madison's family approval, and compromised their integrity through fraud and deception. Now they faced consequences that no amount of manipulation could reverse. Looking at my brother across the coffee shop table, I felt sadness rather than satisfaction about their downfall. These were people I had once loved and trusted, now reduced to begging for help from the family member they had driven away. But their crisis was self-created, and rescuing them would only enable more of the same destructive patterns. I need some time to think about everything you've told me, I said finally. This is a lot to process. Troy nodded eagerly, misinterpreting my response as potential willingness to help. He gave me his new phone number and begged me to call, soon emphasizing how desperate their situation had become. As he drove back toward Columbus that evening, I sat in my Denver home with Sarah, trying to make sense of the family implosion Troy had described. The people who had once seemed so confident in their superiority and judgment were now facing consequences they never anticipated. But more importantly, I had to decide whether their crisis created any obligation for me to abandon the life I had built in pursuit of their rescue. The job offer in Cleveland represented an opportunity to return to Ohio with success and leverage, but it also meant re-entering the family dynamics I had worked so hard to escape. Sarah and I spent the weekend discussing Troy's revelations and the job offer from Cleveland. She listened patiently as I worked through the complex emotions of seeing my family's situation collapse, while my own career soared beyond their expectations. "What do you actually want to do?" she asked Sunday morning over breakfast. "Not what you think you should do or what would fix their problems. What would make you feel good about your choices 5 years from now?" Her question cut through the guilt and obligation to reveal my genuine feelings. I wanted to return to Ohio, but as a successful professional, choosing my own terms rather than a desperate family member responding to crisis. The Cleveland job offer provided that opportunity. After extensive discussion, we decided I would accept the position, but maintain strict boundaries about family involvement. I would help them create a realistic financial recovery plan, but only with legal oversight and clear limits on my contributions. No blank checks, no enabling their past patterns. Monday morning, I called Midwest Industrial Solutions and accepted their offer. The conversation revealed that they had been tracking my work through industry publications for over a year, impressed by my project management success and specialized certifications. They wanted me to oversee waterfront construction projects throughout the Great Lakes region, a career opportunity that exceeded my most ambitious goals. The company offered relocation assistance to Cleveland, but I negotiated to work primarily from Columbus, with travel to project sites as needed. This arrangement would allow me to address family issues while maintaining professional distance from their drama. I also contacted a lawyer in Columbus who specialized in family financial matters and identity theft cases. We discussed the legal implications of my parents' fraudulent use of my name and developed strategies for protecting my credit and reputation while helping them resolve their legitimate debts. 2 weeks later, I flew to Columbus for initial meetings with Midwest Industrial Solutions and scheduled a family meeting at a neutral location. I chose an upscale restaurant downtown, a place where emotional outbursts would be inappropriate, and the setting would emphasize my professional success. The family arrived looking worse than Troy had described. Dad seemed to have aged 5 years in the 24 months since our last meeting, his usual confident demeanor replaced by defeated exhaustion. Mom appeared thin and nervous, constantly checking her phone as if expecting bad news. Troy had brought Madison with him, apparently hoping her presence would somehow smooth over past conflicts. She looked uncomfortable and overdressed, clearly wishing she was anywhere else. Her parents' rejection of Troy had apparently softened her attitude toward reconciliation. "Barnett, thank you so much for coming," Mom said as they approached the table. "I know we have a lot to discuss, but I want you to know how sorry we are about everything that happened before you left." The apology felt rehearsed, designed to establish a foundation for requesting help rather than expressing genuine remorse. I accepted it politely but didn't reciprocate with forgiveness or reassurance about our future relationship. We ordered dinner while making careful small talk, everyone avoiding the obvious tension, until the main course arrived. Finally, Dad took the lead in explaining their financial situation, providing more detail than Troy had shared during our coffee shop meeting. The loan fraud was more extensive than I had realized, involving forged documents that could result in federal charges if prosecuted. They had used my name and fabricated employment information to obtain credit lines totaling nearly $30,000 money that had been spent on basic living expenses as their income disappeared. "We know we made serious mistakes," Dad admitted. "Using your name was wrong and we're prepared to make that right, but we're hoping you might consider helping us through this difficult period. We're still family despite our disagreements." His approach was more humble than their past manipulation attempts, but the underlying assumption remained the same. They expected me to prioritize their immediate needs over my own goals and boundaries. The crisis might be real, but their view of my obligations hadn't changed. I presented my terms carefully, explaining that I was willing to help, but only within strict parameters. I would contribute to a court-supervised debt repayment plan, provide temporary financial assistance for necessities like utilities and food, but not enable their previous lifestyle or poor financial decisions. "I'll help you avoid bankruptcy and keep the house," I said. "But you need to understand that this is a loan, not a gift, and there will be legal documentation of every transaction. I'm also hiring a financial advisor to create a realistic budget and repayment schedule." The conditions clearly disappointed them, though they tried to hide their reactions. They had hoped for a bailout that would restore their previous comfort level, not a structured recovery plan with oversight and accountability. But before anyone could respond to my offer, the evening took an unexpected turn. Madison spotted someone across the restaurant and went pale, grabbing Troy's arm and whispering urgently in his ear. Her ex-husband had entered the restaurant with a new girlfriend, a successful doctor who worked at Columbus Children's Hospital. They were celebrating something toasting with expensive wine and laughing together. The contrast with our tense family meeting was stark and painful. Madison tried to hide behind her menu, but it was too late. Her ex-husband noticed our table and approached with his girlfriend, apparently wanting to introduce her to people he knew. The encounter was excruciating for Madison and Troy, highlighting how far their social status had fallen since the divorce. "Troy, good to see you," the ex-husband said with polite insincerity. "How's the job search going? Madison mentioned you were having some challenges in the engineering field." The public humiliation was complete when he introduced his new girlfriend and mentioned their recent engagement. Madison's replacement was younger, more successful, and clearly from a better family background than Troy could offer. After they left our table, Madison broke down crying while Troy tried unsuccessfully to comfort her. The encounter had stripped away any pretense that their problems were temporary or easily solved. Their social circle had moved on without them, and their previous lifestyle was permanently out of reach. But watching my brother's genuine distress and my parents' obvious pain, I felt something shift inside me. These were still the people who had raised me and shared my childhood experiences. Their treatment of my goals had been wrong, but their current suffering was real and devastating. "Look," I said after Madison composed herself. "I'm not going to pretend that everything between us is fine. You manipulated me, lied about my character, and committed fraud using my name. But you're still my family, and I don't want to see you destroyed by your mistakes." I outlined a more generous assistance plan, offering to pay off their immediate debts and provide living expenses while they rebuilt their careers. But the help came with non-negotiable conditions about honesty, financial transparency, and respect for my professional choices. Dad broke down crying when he realized the scope of assistance I was offering, the first time I had seen him show genuine emotion in years. Mom reached across the table to squeeze my hand, her usual manipulation replaced by authentic gratitude. Troy looked stunned by my willingness to help despite their past treatment. "I don't understand," he said. "After everything we put you through, why would you do this for us?" "Because that's what family actually means," I replied. "It's not about manipulation or control or making people dance to your tune. It's about being there when someone genuinely needs help, even when they've screwed up badly." The evening ended with specific plans for addressing their financial crisis and beginning the process of rebuilding our relationships. But I made it clear that future contact would depend on their willingness to treat me with respect and honesty, rather than as their backup plan and safety net. Madison apologized for her role in the original manipulation, admitting that she had pushed Troy to test my family loyalty because she was insecure about his background. The social pressure from her family had made her prioritize appearances over genuine relationships. As we prepared to leave the restaurant, I felt cautiously optimistic about the possibility of rebuilding healthy family connections based on mutual respect rather than obligation and guilt. But I also knew that real change would take time and consistent effort from everyone involved. 18 months after that confrontation in the Columbus restaurant, my family had rebuilt their lives with a foundation of honest communication and mutual respect. The transformation wasn't immediate or easy, but it proved that people can change when they're motivated by consequences and supported through genuine crisis. Dad found employment with a smaller insurance company that valued his experience over his age. The position paid less than his previous job, but it provided steady income and restored his professional confidence. He also enrolled in evening courses to update his skills and improve his marketability. Mom completed her ethics remediation program and had her real estate license reinstated with probationary status. She focused on modest residential sales rather than the high-end commercial deals that had gotten her in trouble. The reduced income was offset by lower stress and improved family relationships. Troy made the biggest changes of anyone in the family. He enrolled in a trade school electrical program, recognizing that his engineering degree hadn't prepared him for the practical aspects of working in technical fields. The hands-on training suited him better than theoretical coursework, and he discovered genuine aptitude for electrical systems. The transformation in Troy's attitude was remarkable. He apologized repeatedly for his past entitlement and acknowledged how his privileged upbringing had left him unprepared for adult responsibilities. Learning a skilled trade gave him confidence based on ability rather than expectation. Madison and Troy had attempted reconciliation during the family crisis, but ultimately decided they were incompatible for long-term partnership. Their divorce was finalized amicably, and she moved to another city for a fresh start. Troy was dating someone new, a teacher who appreciated his work ethic and personal growth. My relationship with my parents evolved into something healthier than we had ever achieved during my childhood. They asked about my work with genuine interest, celebrated my professional accomplishments, and treated Sarah as a valued daughter-in-law rather than an outsider to tolerate. The legal issues surrounding their identity theft were resolved through plea agreements that required restitution and community service, but avoided criminal prosecution. I hired a financial advisor who helped them create sustainable budgets and repayment plans for their remaining debts. Sarah and I were married in a mountain ceremony outside Denver with my family in attendance as honored guests rather than sources of stress. Dad gave a speech about the importance of supporting each other's dreams, and Mom cried happy tears while promising to be a better mother-in-law than she had been a mother. My career with Midwest Industrial Solutions exceeded every expectation I had harbored about professional success. The Great Lakes waterfront projects were complex and challenging, requiring innovative solutions that pushed the boundaries of underwater construction techniques. Within 2 years, I was promoted to Regional Project Director with responsibility for all Great Lakes construction initiatives. The position required travel throughout Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and New York, managing projects worth tens of millions of dollars. The specialty skills Elena had taught me in Denver proved invaluable for artistic elements in these large construction projects. I designed custom metalwork installations for several waterfront developments combining functional engineering with aesthetic appeal. Sarah established her nursing career at Cleveland Clinic, specializing in pediatric emergency medicine. We bought a house in a suburb between Columbus and Cleveland, allowing easy access to both our families and my work projects. 5 years after leaving Columbus in anger and disappointment, I returned as someone who had built success through persistence and skill rather than family connections or manipulation. The irony wasn't lost on me that my family's rejection had forced me to develop the independence and confidence they now admired. But the most important lesson came through watching my family's recovery process. When people face real consequences for their choices, they often discover strengths and capabilities they never knew they possessed. My parents and Troy became more resourceful, honest, and resilient after losing their safety nets and comfortable assumptions. Troy's transformation was especially meaningful to me. The spoiled younger brother who had once dismissed my career goals was now proud of his electrical certification and spoke knowledgeably about building codes and safety regulations. He had found dignity in skilled work that our parents had once considered beneath our family's social status. During a recent family dinner, Troy brought up the memory of that manipulative moving day crisis that had started our family breakdown. "I can't believe I thought lying to you was okay," he said. "If someone had done that to me now, I'd never trust them again." His recognition of past wrongs was genuine and complete, not the partial apology designed to restore convenience that I had received years earlier. He understood how his actions had affected me and took responsibility for repairing the damage. Mom and Dad also acknowledged their role in creating family dynamics based on favoritism and manipulation, rather than genuine support for everyone's goals. They admitted that their dismissal of my career choice had been driven by social insecurity, rather than concern for my welfare. "We were so worried about what other people thought that we forgot to care about what you thought," Mom said during one of our monthly dinner meetings. "You were building something real while we were chasing appearances that didn't matter." The family dinners had become a tradition. We all valued opportunities to share professional successes and personal challenges without judgment or agenda. Sarah enjoyed these gatherings, finally seeing the people my parents could be when they weren't driven by crisis or desperation. My success in the construction industry had also provided opportunities to help other young people pursue skilled trades careers. I established a scholarship program at the local community college funding welding and electrical training for students from working-class families. Troy often helped evaluate scholarship applications, bringing insights from his own journey from privileged college student to skilled tradesperson. He understood both the academic and practical aspects of career transitions, making him an effective mentor for confused young adults. The scholarship program honored the memory of Frank, my first welding supervisor at Henderson Metalworks, who had died of cancer the year after I left Columbus. His encouragement during my early training had been crucial to my confidence and persistence in pursuing this career path. Looking back on the phone call that changed everything, I realized my family's manipulation had inadvertently launched me toward a much better life than I could have built while remaining their emotional safety net. Their rejection forced me to discover my own capabilities and values. But the real victory wasn't my professional success or financial independence. It was learning to build relationships based on mutual respect, rather than obligation or guilt. My marriage to Sarah, friendship with Jake and Elena, and rebuilt connections with my family all reflected this healthier approach to human connection. I learned that sometimes the greatest act of love is refusing to enable someone's weakness. When I chose my future over their immediate comfort, I forced my family to grow up and develop their own resources. Setting boundaries wasn't selfish. It was the foundation of healthy relationships built on mutual respect. Real family doesn't ask you to sacrifice your dreams for their convenience. They celebrate your success and learn from your example. The manipulation and control I had mistaken for love were actually fear-based responses to their own insecurities and limitations. During our last family gathering, Troy presented me with a custom metal sculpture he had created in his electrical shop, incorporating artistic techniques I had taught him during recent visits. The piece represented our rebuilt relationship forged through genuine effort rather than family obligation. I want my kids to know their Uncle Barnett as someone who followed his dreams and succeeded through hard work, Troy said as he presented the sculpture, not as someone who gave up his goals to make other people comfortable. His words captured the transformation our family had achieved through crisis and recovery. We had learned to support each other's authentic goals rather than demanding conformity to external expectations. The relationships were stronger for having been tested and rebuilt on honest foundations. 5 years later, I was teaching welding classes at Columbus Community College, sharing my knowledge with students who reminded me of my younger self. Troy often attended these sessions, learning techniques he could apply in his electrical work and enjoying our professional collaboration. During one class, a student asked about balancing family expectations with personal career goals. I shared my story about the certification exam and family pressure, explaining how setting boundaries had ultimately strengthened rather than destroyed our relationships. Sometimes people need to see consequences before they understand that you're serious about your goals, I told the class. Don't sacrifice your future to avoid temporary conflict. If your dreams are worth pursuing, they're worth defending. The student nodded thoughtfully, probably facing similar pressures from family members who didn't understand the value of skilled trades. I gave him my contact information and encouraged him to call if he needed advice about navigating family dynamics while building a career. Teaching had become an unexpected passion, allowing me to influence the next generation of skilled tradespeople while honoring the mentors who had helped shape my own career. Frank's encouragement, Jake's opportunity, Elena's artistic vision, and even my family's eventual support had all contributed to my success. The full circle felt appropriate and meaningful. I had left Columbus as an angry young man escaping family manipulation, but returned as a confident professional, able to offer guidance and support to others facing similar challenges. My marriage to Sarah had produced 2 children who grew up understanding that both their parents had important careers worthy of respect. They saw their father welding artistic installations and their mother saving lives in the pediatric emergency room, learning that meaningful work came in many forms. The kids also learned about healthy family dynamics through watching their parents and grandparents interact with honesty and mutual respect. The manipulation tactics that had defined my childhood were replaced by direct communication and genuine support for individual goals and dreams. What have you learned about setting boundaries with family members who don't respect your career choices or personal goals? Have you ever had to choose between family expectations and your own dreams? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please give it a like and subscribe for more real-life stories about overcoming family challenges and building successful careers. Thank you for joining me on this journey of family conflict, personal growth, and professional success. Remember that your dreams are valid regardless of who supports them, and sometimes the people who love you most need to see your success before they understand your vision. Share this story with anyone who might need encouragement to pursue their goals despite family pressure, and I wish you courage in building the life you truly want.